In the practice of shamanism, we look at illness from a spiritual perspective. And so it really doesn't matter if a client or a patient has a complaint that's manifesting on a physical illness type of level or on an emotional level. In shamanism, we go into an altered state of consciousness and we consult with the spirits. That's one of the beauties of the work. You don't have to go, oh, I wonder what this is going to be. It's up to the spirits to be able to share with the shamanic practitioner what they perceive is going on. And it's not, I think from a classical shamanic point of view, shamans believed that the spirits had all this power that humankind does not have. I can only speak from my evolution of consciousness that I really feel that we're spirits and that we have as much power as the spirits do. It's just that because they don't have bodies, they can look down on the human condition and they have a different perspective. A friend of mine who's a brilliant shamanic practitioner and teacher has this wonderful analogy. She talks about being at a baseball game and that we're the players on the field and that the spirits are sitting in the bleachers and they can look down and go, don't you see what's happening? Don't run this way. Or, they just can look down on the human condition and give us some guidance. It doesn't mean that they necessarily have more power than we do, but they have a different perspective. And so when a client shows up to see a shaman, the shaman would immediately go to the spirits and say, this is the complaint. What is the spiritual diagnosis of what's going on? And there are a few different spiritual diagnoses that might come back that are part of the shamanic worldview. There might be many different ceremonies to deal with the same diagnosis. And so one of the beauties is that the spirits can give one of 100 different ceremonies to bring back, but there are actually particular classifications of illness that fall into what shamans work with from a spiritual perspective. One would be what we call a loss of power, where a guardian spirit, it's believed from a shamanic point of view that whether you practice shamanism or not, we all have these guardian spirits that are around us that kind of act like guardian angels. They're always taking care of us. They're always watching out for us. It doesn't mean that they're going to stop us from our life's lessons and all the things that we have to experience in our lifetime, but they're going to make sure that not any harm comes to us that can be avoided. And in many different cultures, these are called power animals, where an animal, the spirit of an animal, will volunteer itself to us when we're born. And from a shamanic point of view, people typically have about 2 to 3 power animals around them at all times. People can have 100 power animals around them. There are no rules in shamanism. Again, it's a practice of self-revelation and direct revelation. And if you see 100 animals around you, it's a lot of animals that you have to feed and take care of, but the spirits will keep volunteering themselves to us as they feel that we need their help and assistance. And so what can happen sometimes is a guardian spirit might go away. The why around this we really don't understand, but it's an old classification of illness that's been passed down through different shamanic cultures. And then a person is left without power. And again, it would be the helping spirits who would diagnose this, but we do notice that there are certain symptoms that go along with power loss. And some of those symptoms would be chronic depression, chronic suicidal tendencies. we all get depressed at times, but when it's chronic and it's not going away, there's a possibility that a guardian spirit might have left us. Chronic illness, somebody who's always sick, every time you call them up, they have whatever bug is traveling around town. They can't seem to keep their immune system intact. That could be a sign of power loss. A real sign of power loss is somebody who you wonder if they've been cursed or jinxed. Again, the spirits will not protect us from all harm because we tend to, as human beings, we believe that we learn through pain and suffering. I don't particularly myself believe that that needs to be true, but we do have a collective belief around that. But again, the spirits will protect us from non-ordinary harm. And so when a person starts to show up to see a shaman and it's just one catastrophe after another, they've lost their job, their partner divorces them, their cat dies, their bank closes down, their car gets stolen. You know, we all know people who you don't want to call them up on the phone because you really don't want to hear what's going on. I would start to wonder at that point if a person has lost their power, because from a shamanic point of view, it is the role of your power animal or your guardian spirits to protect you from that kind of harm. So that's one classification of illness, and again, it would be the spirits who would diagnose that. In that particular circumstance, the role of the shaman would be to go into an altered state of consciousness and to actually journey into the invisible realms and to look for an old power animal or an old guardian spirit who's willing to come back and protect that person at this particular point in time. And it's actually a physical experience where in some cultures the shaman will actually blow that animal into the person, or in some shamanic cultures they might sculpt. They might actually hire a carver in town to carve that animal and then instruct them to keep it in their house, in a particular place in their house. So there's usually some kind of physical action that goes along with bringing back a power animal. Another cause of illness from a shamanic perspective is what we call soul loss. And the definition of soul that I'm using is soul is our essence, it's our life force, it's that part of ourselves that keeps us alive. And when I was writing my book called Soul Retrieval, which is all about the classification of soul loss, I was surprised in doing the research to find that just about all shamanic cultures around the world believe that illness is due to the loss of the soul. And what happens in soul loss that's understood in shamanic cultures is that when we suffer emotional or physical pain, a part of our soul leaves our body in order to survive the experience. In psychology, we talk about this as dissociation, but we don't talk about what dissociates or where that what dissociates goes to. We only talk about dissociation. In shamanism, it's believed that a piece of our essence leaves our body, escapes from the body in order to survive the experience. And so the example, I always use the same example because I think it's very clear. If I'm going to be in a head-on car collision, the very last place I want to be at the point of impact is in my body. My psyche cannot endure that kind of pain. So our psyches have this brilliant self-protect mechanism. We go away while the pain is occurring so that we don't get that full impact of the pain. So we do dissociate from the body to escape what has happened to us. The problem from a shamanic point of view is typically the soul does not come back on its own. And so in our culture, the typical causes of, the typical symptoms of soul loss would be dissociation, not feeling fully present in our body or in life, we almost feel as if we're watching life as if it's a movie. We don't feel like we're fully engaging in life.